I introduced our guest speaker during the worship period. His name is Arron Gallagher. Arron works with us full-time at the Gospel Broadcasting Network, and as you saw from the sermon this morning, Arron is very capable. He does a great job. Arron and I do the program together called Answering the Error, and we just filmed 8 new episodes of that. There was one group that was attacking the Church of Christ and talking about our errors and mistakes, and so we've reviewed that video, and we reached out to them and asked them if they would be willing to discuss it, and we're very kind and very soft with everything that we did, but we were very straightforward in answering from the Bible, and so those episodes should be coming out, you said maybe this week? 4 of them will come out this week, so check the Roku, check your app. If you haven't downloaded the GBN app, I encourage you to do that. One thing that you may not know, and that is we are setting up a GBN satellite studio here at Willow. And so we started building that this week in the room where we normally take pictures of new members. We have a studio in there now. We have built a wall, we have cameras and lights, and we're going to start filming programs for GBN right here at Willow. And we've also set up cameras and lights in my office so that I can start doing a weekly podcast, and that's going to happen in the near future as well. Arron is going to take the class time and tell us about the work we're doing at GBN, and then specifically about the social media work. So give your attention, please, to Arron.
All right, good morning. This switching it around is a little bit. I was out there talking to Don about, before I leave, I got to go out to my truck and forgot I had a class to talk about. So I want to talk to you about GBN. I came to GBN about 4 years ago, July of 2018. Prior to that, I'd been doing, for about 10 years, I was in the biotech field. So I lived in Research Triangle Park in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that's the work I was doing. And I sort of got more involved in social media, which I'll talk about here in a minute. And we'll spend most of our time talking about social media. So I work for the Gospel Broadcasting Network. We talked about, in the sermon, the Great Commission, right? As Christians, I'd say maybe the most important thing other than being, faithful to God. Part of being faithful to God is evangelizing, teaching other people, right? So that's what GBN seeks to do. So we try to make online resources for really 2 purposes. Edification, which means to build up, right, like a building, an edifice. So we're trying to build up members of the church, and then we're trying to develop resources that we can use to evangelize the rest of the world, those people that need to hear the gospel. So as far as edification goes, in a sense, all of what we do is edification, but there are some things that are more catered towards evangelism. But this is our website. It was redesigned, I don't know, pretty recently. And we have a live stream 24 hours a day you can watch. You can also watch that on one of our YouTube pages. You can also watch that on your Roku or Apple TV. You can listen to a radio stream. We have a newsletter. You can donate. You can sign up for a BCC. That means Bible Correspondence Course, not blind carbon copy. I was raised in the church, so I should know that, right? But I remember the first time someone asked me if I wanted to do a BCC. I was like, what in the world are you talking about? So one of the things we try to do is we try to not use some of the Bible talk, the things that maybe only we understand because we've heard it our whole lives. Because a lot of non-members of the church, they don't understand some of these phrases that we use, right? So we try to use things in easy-to-understand language and much more, which we're going to talk about. So production. We produce a lot of programs. I don't know the exact number, but this is just a few of them. That's Mike Hickson and John Shannon. They just started a new show that they wanted to do called Black and White, where they talk about all kinds of different issues. They do talk about cultural issues and racial issues, and basically say, look, there's one race, right? And what does the Bible say about that? So Gary Hampton is up here. Gary does a lot of teaching. He teaches a lot of courses, goes through entire books of the Bible. I'll show you a little bit more about that. What would you do if? B.J. Clark's son Michael and Wayne Rogers talk about just different sort of cultural current events. That's B.J. Hickson and B.J. Hickson. B.J. Clark. Don's like, who in the world is that? B.J. Clark and Mike Hickson. They have the show Counterpoint, which is on Dish Network and DirecTV, and also Glory Star is another channel. Digging Deep with Dan Cates. Dan Cates is a teacher at the Memphis School of Preaching. Really knowledgeable as far as history and archaeology. He really makes some things that other people teaching are boring. He makes them really exciting. And so he's got a program on there. This is Don and I. This is Answering the Error. This started, we had a young member at the South Haven who brought us a video, and it was on baptism. It's actually the very first video we did for Answering the Error. And this member of the youth group brought this video to us and said, hey, like, this video's kind of, how do you answer these things? And so they showed it to Don and I, and we looked at it, and we said, okay, these are the typical arguments. And I think Don said, why don't we make a show going through this video and stopping it when they make a point, and then saying this is what the Bible actually says about it. And we tried to figure out the most subtle, kind, what's a good word for it in our culture, accepting topic ever. And we said, how about answering the error? Like, that won't offend anybody, right? No. So Adam, our video guy, said, why don't we call it You're Wrong and Here's Why? But we thought this is a much more polite title, right? So we do our best to be nice. Sometimes in our culture, if you tell somebody they're wrong, that's pretty offensive, right? So we're not trying to do that. We're trying to say, hey, look, we care about your souls. We know this is what you believe. We disagree, and here's why. So, and then the Authentic Christian Podcast is a podcast that I host with Tucker and Scott, and they were just here working on the studio here for a couple days, and I think they'll be back pretty soon to work and finish that up. We have a lot of Bible study material, which is one of the ways I learned. We have different people that teach all the way through books of the Bible, right? So this is one example. Keith Mosier taught through Romans. It's one of the first ways I studied the book of Romans, verse by verse, all the way through the entire book, right? It's like, who likes commentaries but hates reading? Anybody? Okay, yeah, it's the honest one in here. Lots of people love commentaries but don't like reading them, right? This is kind of what this is. It's almost video commentary, right? So Keith Mosier has done Romans, Luke, 2 Corinthians, I think Gary Hampton did. But we have many more. This is a look at our app. On the app, one of the sections, and the app is free. Everything we do is free. Books of the Bible. Gary has taught Genesis, Joshua. We have actually Kevin Rhodes and Gary teaching Joshua, Judges, Ruth. Psalms is a brand new one, which is awesome. Tom Waycaster is doing the video lessons for that. Psalms is really a lot deeper than a lot of people realize. Sometimes we just think, oh, this is nice to read for bed. But there's a lot of really deep content, and Tom Waycaster does a great job with that. Isaiah, Daniel, the minor prophets. Most people have never even studied the minor prophets, right? Like if I said Habakkuk, a few people could probably tell me probably how to pronounce it, but what the book is actually about, right? And so Eddie Parrish has 12 lessons. They're each 30 minutes long, and they're awesome if you just want to learn what the minor prophets are about. Some of them are really applicable. First time I studied Habakkuk, I was like, wow, that sounds like today. You know, Habakkuk's nation, the nation is evil, and Habakkuk says, hey, God, why haven't you punished all this evil in our nation? And God says, oh, I'm going to punish the evil. I'm just being patient. He says, I'm going to use the Babylonians. And he's like, whoa, wait a minute. They're worse than us. You can't use them to punish us. And God says, yes, I can. I'm going to use them to punish you, and then later they're going to be punished, right? So sometimes you may look at, I was talking to the lady this morning at the hotel, and we were talking about the Bible, and she asked me, why hasn't God taken care or brought judgment on some of the evil things our country's doing? I said, well, guess what? You should read this book in the Old Testament called Habakkuk, because that's exactly the question that he asked. And God's response was, I'm going to take care of it, and I'm going to use an evil nation to do it, and later they're going to be punished. And by the end of the book, Habakkuk basically says, okay, I'm going to praise God, I'm going to let him do his work, and I'm just going to trust that he knows what he's doing, right? So those books are really relevant, even today. Then all the New Testament books, Luke, Acts, Romans. Some of these books are great. Maybe someone in here wants to teach a Bible class, but you are a little overwhelmed at the thought of teaching it. You can watch these lessons, take your own notes, and then basically turn around and teach them. Or you can just use them for home devotionals, anything you want to use them to study with. All right, evangelism. We broadcast through Dish Network and DirecTV. Also, Glory Star is a smaller network. To about 40 million homes. These are the two programs we have right now. Preaching the Gospel with Cliff Goodwin. Cliff replaced James Watkins. We just got to do an interview with James Watkins in Nashville pretty recently. And James Watkins was incredible. I always tell this story. First time I saw him preach at Tabernacle Sermons, he pulled out this little Bible. And I'm just being honest. The first thing I thought is, that old guy can't read that. You know how small the little Bible, right? I'm just being honest. I was probably 24, 25. I said, there's no way he can read that. And guess what he didn't do? He didn't have to read it. You know why? Do you know who James Watkins is? because he pretty much quotes everything. He has like the whole New Testament memorized, I think. So he was just incredible. And then Cliff is incredible too. Cliff took over for Brother Watkins when he got older, and so Cliff does that program, and it's just fantastic. A lot of great material in there. And then Counterpoint, B.J. Clark and Mike Hickson. So that's a great program too. B.J.'s so knowledgeable. Mike is too. They both have a recall of Scripture Don and I have talked about before that's just incredible. This is GBN Live. So GBN Live we've done for years, I think 7 years, on Thursday nights, where we have different guests. We're actually going to be transitioning this into a show that I think Mike may still host, but it's going to be talking more about what's going on in culture today, right? Trying to make it really applicable to, if there's, racial things going on or economic things. This is the topic that's big in the news, and this is what the Bible says about that. So that'll be in the next few months starting. This is one of the reasons, this is the way I like to transition into social media. We had an opportunity maybe 2 or 3 years ago to lease a giant satellite tower in the middle of New Jersey, right? This is Philadelphia, and this is Atlantic City. And so this tower out in the middle, we leased it for about a year, and we were allowed to broadcast GBN 24 hours a day, 7 days a week throughout this entire red area, all the way up into Philadelphia. And we did that for about a year and realized that we did the same sort of thing with social media but spent way less money, and we reached way more people, got way more responses. And so GBN's been spending a lot of time and money reaching people on social media. And so one of the things we do to reach people, we're going to talk about Instagram last because we'll spend the most time there. This is our YouTube page. So YouTube is, I say the 3 pillars of our social media approach are YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, okay? So on YouTube, we have this first video, we have download the app. So we have a little 40-second video that sort of previews people at what you can do on the app, what you can watch. And then we have all these different programs. Answer in the Error, we've got 12 episodes, 4 coming out this week and another 4 after that. And then let's get to the app, all right? The app, the first 24 hours it was released, was downloaded in about 50 different countries, okay? You can see China. Is China very friendly to Christianity? No. From the people I know there, they've been cracking down more and more on it recently. But our app can get there, even if missionaries can't. France, Italy, some places like Saudi Arabia, heavily Muslim, all right, and 41 others. That was in the first 24 hours, okay? I'm going to show you another graph later that shows you it's quite a bit more than just 50 countries. This is the old version of the app and the new version. We've spent a lot of time. Scott Ingram has spent a lot of time, and Tucker as well, 2 of the guys that have done a lot of hard work to make the app look more appealing and also organize the content really well. So we have different programs. There's Answer in the Error, the podcast, short videos. Campfire Stories is me and Scott and Tucker were talking about going camping, and Scott was like, we should go camp and film some devotional videos with it. And so we said, okay, great. So we went camping and filmed about 10 5-6-minute videos, and then later did 10 30-minute podcasts talking about that. So like episode 8, I think we talked about was the torches were coming, and we talked about how in John 19, 1 through 4, it says that, it's the first century, so there's lots of street lights, right? No, it's dark, and there's this mob of people coming down from the temple in Jerusalem, and if you know the Garden of Gethsemane, there's these paths that crisscross down. So it would have taken about 10 minutes for them to get there to arrest Jesus. And John 18, maybe 4, says Jesus knew all the things that were about to happen to him. So we talk about in that 5-minute video, what would you do if you knew these people were coming to crucify you, punch you in the face, spit in your face, scourge you, and put you on a cross? I'd run away, if I'm honest. But Jesus didn't. So we talk about that in a 5-minute video, then we spend a 30-minute podcast talking about that, okay? These are some newer sections. This is, of course, if you picked any show, not just that show, but that's the podcast. This is what our episodes are, okay, down the middle. Over here, we have a kids section. We're working hard to get more content that's kid-friendly. And then on the right, we have a ladies-only section. So this has everything from Digging Deep with Cindy Colley to lots of other stuff that World Video Bible School has produced. So it's a ladies-only section. Tucker, who is on the podcast, he was a member of the church. I think he was converted maybe 5 years ago, I think. And when Tucker got to GBN, the first thing he asked Don is he said, hey, I want to do my conversion story in a movie format, like Muscle and a Shovel, but in a movie. And so Don said yes, and I said, sure. If Don says yes, I say yes. He's my boss, right? And so Tucker starts filming it, right? And I don't know what Don thought, but I thought, okay, great. It's a guy filming his own movie. It's going to be cheesy, but it's a great story, right? That's what I thought. So he showed it to me at Polishing the Pulpit, and I was just like stunned. I mean, I said, Tucker, no offense, like I wasn't expecting this to be any good. It's really good. And he shot it like pretty much by himself with him and his wife. And so I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but me not thinking it was going to be good, but it's great. And so it chronicles him. He was raised Southern Baptist, and it chronicles him going through one night. He met his girlfriend, who's now his wife, Megan. She's a member of the church. And she started asking him questions, because he asked her, why do you just call yourself a Christian? And she said, well, that's what they were called in the New Testament. And Tucker's like, well, I'm a Baptist. And so they started studying. And it led Tucker to some really stress-filled nights trying to find things in his New Testament he couldn't find. So he chronicles that in his movie. It's called Little Cup of Wisdom. The app also has articles, lots of different articles, and it even has a Bible correspondence course that you can go through yourself. You can always point somebody to if you're trying to study with somebody. And this is something that's brand new we're doing. We're working on a new app. Don's kind of heading it up, and we have a web developer, but it's going to be called the Salvation app. And it's going to be an app that's free that you can download on your phone, and you can also show your friends. If you have somebody you're trying to study with, you can either download it and walk them through it together, or you can have them download it. It's going to be a streamlined Bible study on an app. And if they have a question about Thief on the Cross, there's going to be a link. You can tap on it, a button, it'll take you to a video on that. So that's one of the main projects we're working on this year. This is just, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this. I just want to show you over the last, 3 years, how GBN's grown, right? You don't need to know what the little notes are. Just look at this. You can see on the left is where we were in 2018, and on the right is where we are today. So in February, okay? So these are all different stats. This one is app downloads. You can see it's really spiked, even through the pandemic. The pandemic is great for GBN. I know it caused a lot of problems, and it was very tragic for a lot of people that we know and love. But GBN was able to reach more people as more people are sitting at home trying to look up content to watch. So you can just see some of these. This is app launches, media plays. And so that's the app. If you have Android, Apple, you can always download that in any of the stores. And you can also do what I do. If I'm in a coffee shop, when I travel, I go to coffee shops a lot. And if I see somebody studying their Bible, I'll always interrupt them. Sometimes they're not that appreciative, but I'll take the Ethiopian eunuch approach and say, hey, do you understand what you're reading? And then I'll say, well, look, get your phone out. And I think maybe sometimes they're just afraid maybe I'm not nice, but I'm going to get your phone out, and I'll show them where the app is, and I'll have them download the app. And then I'll show them, hey, on the app, if you're studying, I met this Baptist preacher recently. He was studying for Colossians, Philippians maybe. And I was like, open this up. And so he opened it up, and I scrolled down and said, you can watch. These are all video lessons by college-level professors, instructors that walk you through all the way through the entire book that he was preaching from, right? And so we're just trying to connect people with good Bible resources. All right, social media. So social media allows us to be, I like to call it digital missionaries to over 150 countries. Instagram's the one we're going to spend our time on today, just because, there's so much we could spend a whole weekend on. But what is Instagram? In 2015, 18, it crested 1 billion users. Does anybody know how many billion people there are in the world? 7.8, right? Approaching 8 billion people, and 1 out of 8 is on Instagram, okay? So it's a big place to reach people. In the book of Acts, everywhere Paul went, where did he go first? Synagogue. He went where the religious people were, right? And then if there wasn't a synagogue, Acts 16, he went to a place of prayer. And then other times he just went where there were people, right? Like in Acts 17, okay? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to still use we're trying to use in person, and you can still door knock, it still works. But there's other avenues we're trying to use to reach people. So one of those is Instagram, okay? The developer's instant Polaroid photo. If you know it, some of you might know what that is. I do. I'm old enough to know what it is, right? That's not a slight. No one's thinking this young guy up there giving us a hard time. And then some of you may know what telegrams are, okay? They put those two ideas together. So this is what our main Instagram page looks like. It's called The Authentic Christian. It's got images here, okay? Just different. We post one about every day. Then we have Reels, which are short videos that we post to try to get people to engage with the podcast. And the whole podcast is developed around this Instagram page. So we had this Instagram page first, and we were trying to figure out what's a way we can reach these people and connect with them more on just like a 1 square photo a day level. And so we designed the podcast around it. So the podcast is really designed for non-members of the church. We talk about a lot of stuff that members of the church like, but we designed it. The first 8 lessons take you from, is there a God, all the way up through, should you believe the Bible? Is the Bible reliable? What to do to become a Christian? The first 8, 9 lesson kind of arc. So, and then these are the episodes of the podcast over here. So, I don't know if this is like a humble, I'm just going to say it. We're very thankful to some members of the church who have helped us promote a lot of these videos on social media. There's a few who've been very generous that have allowed us to promote a lot of our content. Some of them to the point that we did some episodes on Calvinism. And there's a guy who's I almost would call him the Goliath of Calvinism, the world's, in my opinion, the world's most capable Calvinist debater, Reformed theology, and his name is James White. And he saw, and apparently was getting so much from different Reformed people, so many people were sending him this video that he actually reviewed it in an answer in the error style. So we're actually going to film a response back to his video. But it's just showing that the content we're putting out there is reaching the people we want it to reach. I want to show you some examples of conversations that happen, because this is really what all this is the goal is. So somebody said, hey, I've had a quick question. I've always accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior, even as a child. I believe in Jesus and try to repent for my sins every day. I was baptized as a child. I want to know if I need to be baptized again as an adult. And so we basically just went into a Bible study. Hey, in the Bible, children were baptized, okay? And so we say, okay, where are you from? They say, New York City. I don't know how to get baptized. Don't you worry, right? The first time somebody reaches us, we find out where they're from. We answer any Bible questions they are. And then we try to connect them with, guess what? A congregation where? In their area, right? Because we want them to get established and study with people in a sound congregation, okay? This guy was in the Bronx. This is another person. If I'm not baptized, will I have bad consequences, right? We go into a Bible study with them. I mean, there are hundreds of these. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. I'm just going to give you the highlights, okay? This is somebody, we posted a photo a while back. I've read through some of this, baptized as a baby, never made the conscious decision, I want to now. Do I need a priest to baptize me? Can I baptize myself? What are the Bible's thoughts on this? A lot of people want to know, can I baptize myself? There was one guy, his name's Diallo, and he sent me a message once and said, hey, I want to be baptized. Can I do it myself? And I said, no. Like, where are you from? We'll get you some. He said, I'm in the UK. I said, great. What city? And he told me. I said, okay, I know some people in that area. We're going to send somebody, and you can meet up with them. What's your phone number? He said, well, I can't give you my phone number. I said, why not? He said, I'm in prison. I said, how did you get a cell phone in prison? He said, well, I'm not supposed to have it. And so we said, okay, well, Diallo, number one, we can't, be complicit in you breaking this law of your prison, so we can't communicate with you anymore. But we're going to have the local Church of Christ contact you, right? Now, the Church of England over there is so empowered that they have a hard time even getting into the prisons, right? But the long and short of it is we're having people all over the world, even in prison, ask these questions, hey, can I baptize myself, okay? So we connected him with the local congregation. One day I was going to speak, and I wanted to see where people were from, like the demographic. So I posted this image. Where are you from? Comment with your country, okay? And the next morning, I checked it, 7:04, and there was 400 comments, right? And I said in the thing, don't comment with your flag, right? Some people do that, like they post their flag. Do you know how many flags I know when it's this big? One, right? So I'm like, don't comment with your flag. Well, nobody listened, and tons of people commented with their flag, but some of them were nice and didn't. And so we counted them up, and you can see this person's from Iran, right? Anybody know many missionaries in Iran? It's a heavily Muslim country, okay? Moldova, some of these, Brazil, Ethiopia. I've done a lot of work in Africa. Ethiopia is getting fairly dangerous. Pakistan, is that a friendly to Christianity area? No? I'm a young guy who watched social media, the podcast, and wants to be baptized. And I had to go through the process of connecting him with a preacher in Pakistan. The preachers were like wanting his information to do background checks to make sure he wasn't undercover Taliban. He was actually from the village that was the headquarters for, is it Taliban or ISIS? I can't remember. But like his village where he lived was literally the headquarters. And so even the gospel preachers were like, I need to find out more about this guy before they'll reveal their identity, right? So we're able to reach in social media into places that I could never, go and preach. Indonesia, Iran, again, Saudi Arabia, Russia. Russia's not very friendly to Christianity either. So we made a list, and it was 140 countries. Now, I did this once, like a year and a half ago, haven't done it since. But in it was a 12-hour period. We had 140 countries, people commented. The numbers are the most dangerous, the top 50 most dangerous countries. And so you can see some of these are pretty high. Iraq's number 8, most dangerous. But then, of course, I couldn't count the people with the flags because I can't tell what a flag is when it's that little. I want to give you some examples, all right? This is Chance. Chance lived, I used to say lives, but now he lived in Los Angeles. He was a model and an actor. He's a good-looking guy, okay? He did really well. And he watched a video on baptism and contacted us and said he wanted to study. And so we studied with him, and he said, okay, I'm ready, come baptize me. And so in jest, I sent him this and said, it takes me 26 hours to get there. Let's find somebody closer, okay? So we connected him with a local faithful church there. Jonathan Hinckley drove to pick Chance up, baptized him into Christ. Very shortly after that, that's Chance meeting some of his brothers. Chance is incredible. He's literally started to enlist in the Air Force, and if it doesn't work out, we've already said, look, we want to offer this guy a job because he went home and taught both of his parents, converted them. One of them was an unscriptural marriage. He taught his dad. His dad left. The marriage was baptized. I mean, like, he does stuff that's hard for, like, gospel preachers. Those are hard conversations to have. And he just said, Dad, I love you. I'm sorry, I got to tell you this. So he's taught both his mom and his dad, and taught a lot of other people too. So anyway, Chance was talking on Instagram about his story, and we talked about it on our Instagram. And the very next day, this guy named Jeff. Jeff's in Los Angeles. He's a cosmetic dentist, all right, so he does pretty well. And the first question, we connected him with Jonathan Hinckley. That's Jonathan baptizing Jeff. And he asked for his number. And so Jonathan called him, and the first thing he said is, he said, I want to be baptized, and I want my family to be baptized. I just need to know how much it's going to cost. And Jonathan's like, what do you mean? He's like, how much does it cost for you to baptize me? He's like, doesn't cost, I'm not going to charge you anything. So he went and studied with him, and Jonathan said he talked about counting the cost as a Christian, right? The spiritual cost of it. But baptized Jeff into Christ, and then this is Jeff and Chance at services. I think this is actually the day that Jeff was baptized. This is Cameron, Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to go through these quickly for time's sake. Same thing. Saw a video, contacted us, studied with him, connected him to the Avondale Church of Christ where Eric Owens is the preacher, and he was baptized. That is Gwen on the left and Gabe on the right. Gwen is in Minneapolis. Gabe is in Montgomery, Alabama. Same story. Saw videos, contacted us, connected them to a local church. Sometimes we study with them. Sometimes if the local church has somebody who's evangelistic or will actually study, we'll let them do it so we don't get overwhelmed. But I think someone from GBN studied with Gabe, someone from GBN studied with Gwen, connect them to a local congregation, and they studied. This is a guy, David Render. I was just 2 weeks ago, I was in Ohio, stayed with David. David worked for FedEx, I think, was in Memphis, came by GBN, had been watching our material. We studied with him at Chick-fil-A, and that was a plug, I guess, shameless plug. With David, he obeyed the gospel that night at Olive Branch, and he's now back up in Ohio where he lives, and he's faithfully serving, and I got to stay with him last weekend when I went up there to do a seminar on social media over the weekend. So, Megan, this is a video. You should really watch this video. Megan is homebound. If she's watching, we love her. But she is one of the most incredible people we've ever met. She was a Division I college soccer player at Oklahoma State, I think, like a starter, not just on the team, like one of their leading players, and scored tons of goals. And then she started getting sick, and the doctors didn't really know why. And it's progressed to the point now where she can't eat. Her just something called gastroparesis, like paralyzation of her digestive tract. And so she has to get her nutrients through an IV. And so you can see it hanging there. That's my wife, Jamie, who's back there with Evelyn running around, my daughter. But it got to the point where Megan couldn't have somebody come in unless they wore special clothes and went through this long protocol. So Don let us go, and so we went. And Megan is just one of the most faithful. I mean, Don can attest to this. She's one of the most evangelistic and faithful people, even though she can't hardly leave her home. So she has a lot of studies with people through social media, but she can't leave her house because of this condition. So she's, I guess, very weak and frail. This is Deja, New Jersey. Same thing. Saw some material, contacted us, Bible study, baptism. This is Kenneth Whitley outside of Manassas, Virginia. I think Kenny was actually, we said in one of our videos, if someone tells you to sign up on a list to be baptized at your church in like 3 months, call us, because we need to find a different church that doesn't do that. And so he had called and said, I was signed up to be baptized at Charles Stanley's church in 3 months, next quarter. And so we studied and said, this is what the Bible says about baptism. It was done immediately. And from there, he was baptized. Is there a bell yet? Was there a bell? Okay, did the bell ring? Okay, so I still got, okay, all right. Just cut me off if you want, all right? This is Sam. Sam is a member of the church. She had a friend, Tyler, that they worked out at the same CrossFit gym, and she wanted to teach Tyler, but she never had a Bible study with somebody, and so she basically showed him the Instagram, and Tyler started asking questions, and we studied with Tyler, and he was baptized into Christ at the same congregation where Sam went. So that's the USA examples. I'll kind of quickly go through some of the more global ones. This is Bandung. I never say it right. I said it Bandung. I guess it's like I'm from West Virginia, so I said Bandung, Indonesia, and some person came up to me and they were like, it's Bandung. So, okay. Indonesia, right? A guy sends us a message on Instagram. His name Christian Alvino, says, I want to study with somebody. And we said, okay. So we contacted one person we know, and through about 2 emails in about 12 hours, this guy, Dedi, was studying with Christian Alvino, went out and had a Bible study with him in Indonesia, and he was baptized soon after that. This is in Doha, Qatar. This was Jeff Alfonso. Jeff contacted us. We studied through Facebook Messenger chat. He obeyed the gospel. Even in Qatar, Middle Eastern country, there's a congregation that meets there. This is his fiancée that he taught. She was baptized shortly after that. He taught her, showing her Don's videos from WVBS and GBN. This is in Norway. Even when I'm in a rush, I have to tell this story. So in Norway, this Henriette reached out, and all right, I told you guys I'd figure this out. Henriette on the right, she was watching social media. She reached out and said that she wanted to be baptized. And so we said, okay, we're going to find you a local congregation. So I asked some friends of mine, who do you know in Norway? And I got one name back. Guess what his name was? Thor. Yeah, his name was Thor. And so I got really excited. I was like, I'm calling this guy. Sometimes we get tired and we want to email or text if we're having a lot of studies, and said, I'm calling this guy. So I called him, Thor, and I'm waiting. And he was the nicest, most soft-spoken guy that I have ever met. So I was a little, I don't know if I'd say disappointed, but caught off guard. But his name is Thor. He's a faithful member of the church. He connected Michael and Henriette to somebody closer, and they were both baptized into Christ. This is in Hwangi, I don't know, Zimbabwe. It's where Cecil the lion got shot a few years ago. You know, remember that? It was a big uproar. People in America were so upset they shot this lion, and I can guarantee you the people there weren't as upset as we were here. I mean, if there was a lion in the parking lot, would you be that upset about? I wouldn't want a lion in the parking lot. So anyway, Ken Chiwanza was his name. Okay, 5 minutes? Okay. So Ken Chiwanza saw stuff on social media, Instagram, and he said he wanted to be baptized. So we connected him with a local preacher, and he sent us these photos along with, I don't think I have it in here, but it was an Instagram message with confetti hats and, you know, party sprinkles and streamers and all this. He was excited that he was able to obey the gospel. So that's Ken there. This is in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This was, I think, Patricia Anita was her name. She's actually from Uganda. She was working in Kuala Lumpur as a nurse. And so maybe weeks before she was heading back to Uganda, she saw GBN videos. She contacted us. We connected her with a local congregation in Kuala Lumpur. They studied with her and baptized her, and then she went back to Uganda, and she's found a faithful congregation there. The Lord's church is really everywhere in the world. I mean, if I can find it in Pakistan, you can find it pretty much anywhere, right? And you say, well, I don't know anybody there. Well, that's fine, but within 1 or 2 phone calls or emails, you can find the Lord's church pretty much anywhere in the world. This is in Georgia. Okay, that's Matt Jones, yeah. This is in Georgia. I believe they watched Tucker's Little Cup of Wisdom and other GBN videos, and Matt Jones, the preacher there, studied with them, and they obeyed the gospel. Mason, he's in Ohio. They're in Oregon. I'm going to have to speed this up. Indiana, and somewhere in South America. Belize City, Belize, okay? This Evan Kane, Evan is 18. He's, I think, going to play tennis at Florida State. He obeyed the gospel, taught his best friend Dominic and his mom in the first week he was a Christian. He taught them. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina, Amelia. That's, I think, Ezekiel in California. This is Barack Ongaro. in Africa, and you can see he watched GBN videos, Don, and there's me. And we connected him with the local congregation, right? Wrong direction. I'm getting used to this. Okay, this is John Lenny and Don, what's his? Can't remember. These are people that Don studied with in the UK, right? Contacted us through videos, email, social media. Don studied with them, and they were both baptized, and John's evangelistic, is he not? John is from Kenya, which is where I've done mission work, and so Don was like, I need somebody in Kenya, and so John wanted to send a preacher to his family in Mombasa, which is on the east coast of Kenya, which can be dangerous in Mombasa. So John Paul was the one that we sent, and John Paul's one of the ones I got to work with in Africa. So his family, right now, hasn't accepted it yet, but the seed was planted, right? That's all you can do. This is Simon Courtney Johnson, maybe? Don studied with him in Australia. Yeah? That's okay. See, there's so many of these all over the world. Sometimes it's kind of hard to keep track of their names, but there's somebody that studied through social media, through the internet, and has obeyed the gospel. This is two twin brothers. It's not the same photo twice. Somewhere in the U.S. This is Abby and her two sons in Kentucky. This was in the last probably month. And this is just another collage of even more that we don't have time to cover. All these. So, we always say this, God didn't invent the internet for you to binge watch Netflix, right? That doesn't mean you can't binge watch Netflix, right? There's things on Netflix that I've watched, okay? But I think, we can't know about God's providence, but it sure seems like one of the most beneficial ways we can use the internet is what? It can allow us to fulfill the Great Commission, right? God wouldn't have given us the Great Commission and said, go and do this, and it's a command, it's an imperative in Greek. He wouldn't have commanded us if it wasn't possible, right? So thank you for your attention. If you have any more questions about GBN, you can always ask me, but then whenever I leave, of course, Don's here. And if there's anything else you'd like to know about GBN, how to download the app, what some of the pages are on Instagram and stuff that we run, just let us know afterwards. And thank you so much for your attention, for your support of GBN, and really appreciate you allowing me to come here and be with you today. So thank you so much.